Hey there, it's Dom Cote.
Warren Purr Jr.
And Mark Anthony Austin. And
We
we
speak
Bocce.
All right, and we are live. All right, guys, it is Dom from We Speak Bocce. I'm here with my co-hosts, Warren Purr Jr. and Mark Anthony Austin. What's going on, guys?
Hey, we're ready to see our first guest.
Yep, our very first guest. And then who better than Toby Philpott?
There we go. We have a special guest, Toby Philpott, Jabba The Hutt puppeteer, also Dark Crystal, Pan's Labyrinth, Little Shop of Horrors, and a great juggler. So, Toby, how are you doing? Thank you for joining us.
I'm good, but I might have to go and let my dog in a minute.
Yeah,
Nope.
say that.
No problem.
Yeah.
We can
We keep it real on this show.
Yeah.
Keep it real.
We'll cut it in post.
Yeah, okay.
We'll cut it in post. All right. So Toby, I'd like to get into kind of the origins. I think before when we spoke, was it, I believe, your family in the circus or in the entertainment business?
Well, indirectly, my dad was a puppeteer.
Oh, okay.
I mean, he made puppets and he performed them in the 30s and the 40s. During the war, he was a fireman, but after that, he wrote a lot of books about puppets. So he's kind of a grandmaster in the puppet world.
Wow.
But that's almost unknown in the real world, of course, because in the real world, the dog's back. In the real world, puppets aren't really an art form. Our Arts Council didn't recognise puppets or circus as art, right? Film, theatre, ballet, opera, sure, but puppets, no. Until Jim Henson came along, and somehow Muppets and Sesame Street converted people, and they decided puppets were an art form.
It's weird because there were so many puppets in England, like Basil Brush and earlier ones. On TV, it was like a staple thing. It wasn't like here in England, puppets like Rod Hull and Emu. There were always puppeteers on TV.
But they were not. They were never respected as an art form. Okay, so puppeteers. I mean, they get the stage manager to handle a puppet. You know what I mean? They wouldn't bother. The union wouldn't accept puppeteers and so on. So it all changed thanks to Jim. And in fact, circus also wasn't respected as an art form. And I guess that's changed not only thanks to me, but thanks to me and my friends, because in the 70s, fringe theatre started evolving a new form of circus, without the animals, without the sequins, without all the kind of palaver, and developed what is now, 40 or 50 years later, you can get a degree in new circus these days. We have a national arts centre for circus arts.
Wow.
So, so I mean, in terms of the family, my dad was a puppeteer, as I say. My mum was actually an actress and a singer, but to bring up two kids sort of on her own because my parents separated, she became a teacher and became a very well-respected voice teacher for actors. So working in drama schools, but also doing private classes for, people like Patrick Stewart, for instance. When he was still at the Royal Shakespeare Company, he'd be going round her house for coaching. And so, they were in showbiz, but as I say, he was into puppets, she was into theatre. I didn't want to be an actor and learn lines and try to pretend to be someone else, but I also didn't want to be a puppeteer particularly. It wasn't, although I was very familiar with it as an art form, I didn't particularly want to grow up to be a puppeteer, and I ended up doing street shows as a juggler, magician, fire-eating, acrobatics, clown, whatever. Which was somewhere between theatre and puppets. Was, I found my own little kind of niche, which, back then there was no training places, there were no equipment. We made our own juggling equipment and things like that. But over the 40 or 50 years, for instance, in 1978, we got together all the jugglers we could find in Europe, apart from the ones who work in cabaret and things, but all the kind of amateur punk people like me. And there were 12 of us, and we met for a convention, came from 5 different countries, and 12 of us met. Well, it's doubled every year. Then it was 25 the next year, 50 the year, and so on. After about 5 or 6 years, there were about 1,000 people turning up to a juggling convention. And not just juggling, but there would be associated arts, you know, stilt walkers and unicycles and all that sort of stuff. Nowadays, a juggling convention can be 2,000 or 3,000 people, and it goes from country to country. And as I say, in the late 80s, I helped set up the first circus training space in London, and we squatted a big old building and we cleaned it out and got rid of all the pigeon debris and whitewashed the walls and put glass in and so on, to sort of prove to local councils and to the Arts Council that this was needed. I mean, jugglers don't need a space, but trapeze artists need a permanent space. We set that up in 87, I think, 88. After about 4 years, they decided to give us a proper building. It still needed a lot of work, but now we were authentically recognised as the circus space. And nowadays, all these years later, it's the National Centre for Circus Arts or something, and you can get a degree. Having built a website, I then got contacted by email from somebody, I think it was in Sweden, and said, I gather you were in Star Wars. And I went, well, yeah, 20 years ago. And they went, well, did you know there are conventions and things out there? People want to meet you. And I went, no, I had no idea. Didn't know any of that. So she said, well, can I interview you? So I did my first interview online, and then, you know, added that to my website, and then somebody else found me. And by 2002, I got invited to go to a convention and sell photos, you know, sign photos and sign people's toys and things. So since 2002, I've not really done showbiz. I haven't done my act or anything like that. But I do, you know, every year I probably, I don't know, I don't do a lot of this, but I do about 4 or 5 conventions a year. I deliberately don't do lots because we had 3 dogs up until a couple of months ago, and it means going away and leaving my partner responsible for all of that. And so I still like it. I like the adventure, but I probably do 2 or 3 in the UK. Wow, that wasn't my dog.
You okay, Warren? Yeah.
But yeah, I do 2 or 3 in the UK. Some small ones like charity gigs, 1 or 2 big ones. I usually do at least one on the mainland, because I can't say in Europe anymore because the UK voted out of Europe. So I have to get visas and things now. It's the same as going to America. But you know, it's nice to have a weekend in Denmark or Germany or something. And every now and then I get an exotic one. I mean, I did do 2 celebrations in the US. I did Celebrations 3 and Celebration 5 in Orlando, I think. And occasionally, you know, 5 years ago, I was flown to Mexico City for 5 days. So every now and then I get, you know, an exotic one. But it's not really a living. It supplements my pension and pays for the wine, really. But you know, it's not life-changing. It really isn't. And I know some of the actors, even some of the extras, you know, really make a job out of it. They go and do lots, and they hustle, and they have agents and things. And I really don't, because it's sort of inconvenient. When I had a job, I didn't want to go away for the weekend because that was my only free time. And now I am retired. We've moved out of the city into the backwoods. You can see, I mean, look at this. This is the backwoods. I don't have, you know, I don't live in a city. I don't have to shave. I don't have to. It was great for COVID because, of course, I didn't meet anybody. I just walked the dogs in the hills, and
there you go.
I'm kind of a hermit, really, now. So conventions are fun just because I get to go and meet a lot of people, lovely fans. I see some of my old performing friends, and you know, it becomes a little adventure, and sometimes I make a bit of money. Either way, I have a little travel and fun, and you know. So yeah, I enjoy it. But going back to the original question, no, when I stopped juggling and fire eating and so on, people said, "Don't you do it for fun?" I go, "Nah." You know, after 30 years of juggling, I reached a plateau. And the jugglers that come up now, some of the jugglers I taught could do as much as me after like 3 or 4 months of me teaching. You know, things that had taken me about 5 years to figure out because there were no teachers, there was no equipment. I mean, nowadays the level has gone right up. It's the same as when I was growing up. No one could run a mile in 4 minutes. And then this one guy, when I was at school, this famous guy managed to, run a mile in 3 minutes 59. And it was like world record. Nowadays he wouldn't even qualify for the Olympics, and he just, everything just goes up in level. And my juggling is, by modern standards, very ordinary.
Oh, you just juggle balls.
Balls and rings. I never really got into club juggling, just basically because they were all homemade clubs. And once some of the people I taught in the 80s, once we started getting real equipment, they really got into club juggling and into passing and all that sort of stuff. And by that time, I was already kind of not over the hill, but kind of go, yeah, all right, okay, I don't drive, so everything I carry for a show has to fit in a suitcase. I can't, I couldn't be a drummer. I had to be a flute player. It's just that thing about portable. And 3 clubs takes up half a suitcase, right? So my whole show used to fit into one little suitcase. That was the whole principle. So, I'm not a very good club juggler. I was never that good at club juggler. I knew how to do it, and I could do it, but if you're doing a show where you're not competing with the best in the world, but you're trying to be amusing, then you'd be better off juggling comedy, or juggling 3 umbrellas, or something funny rather than Olympic skills. It should be more amusing than that. So hat juggling, that was fun, and I learned a little bit of everything. But my show, I could do a 10-minute one or a 45-minute one, but the juggling would only ever be about 5 minutes of that, and the fire eating would be like 1 or 2 minutes at the end. Juggle fire and then put it out of my mouth. I never really got into dragon breath because it's really unpleasant, and I've got a couple of. Well, if you swallow, if you accidentally swallow gasoline, petrol, whatever, your body can't digest it, and it can make you really ill. You can collapse the lung, or if it goes into your stomach, it gives you the runs for days and all that. And it's just disgusting. It just tastes disgusting. And if you've ever siphoned,
I've siphoned.
Yeah.
So
I drive electric. I don't know.
Yeah. No. So I did it once or twice to prove to myself that it wasn't fear putting me off doing it. I did it to check my courage, and then went, but I don't want to do that 2 or 3 times a day. Oof, just not. And nowadays you really can't do it indoors. I mean, back then I was still going and juggling fire in schools and things. The thought of that now is madness. Apart from sprinkler systems, just the health and safety aspect of it, just you wouldn't be able to do it. But things were different 50 years ago.
How did that segue into your puppeteering career then?
Thank you. I was just
if you were going to.
Yeah, way to go, Mark.
Well, okay, so I'm doing clowning, and in the 70s, I'm having a go at everything. I'm having a go at tap dancing, and some of that was doing mime, and some of that was doing mask work. Now, mask work is very much like puppets. A puppet is a mask on your hand, right? And a mask is a mask on your face. But I mean, essentially, they're the same realm. And I even worked with a couple of puppet troupes where we did some clowning and some puppet work. So I was keeping my hand in, and I knew my dad, and all that stuff. But what happened was I was studying mime, and my mime teacher had done movement for movies. He'd done the apes for Greystoke and things like that.
Okay.
So he was a movement coach as well as generally the mime thing. And he called me up one day, and I'm still a student of his, but he called me up and he said, "Have you seen the advertisement in the trade paper in the stage?" And I said, "What for?" And he went, "Well, it says dancers, mimes, acrobats, clowns needed to operate big creatures for a film." Now, it turned out that it was Dark Crystal, and it was Garthim and Mystics and all those things. But at the time, I didn't know. And I went, "Oh, it's not," I was a real punk street performer. I didn't really want to get into proper showbiz. But he said, no, go for the audition. There is no qualification for this. this is not audition where you've got to go in and do a set piece that you got. You know what I mean? They don't know what they want. They just need some physically fit, creative people. I went, okay. And then I found out it was the Muppets. I went, well, I get a free workshop with Jim Henson and Frank Oz, right?
Yeah.
So I went along. They had hundreds of people applying, and they broke them down into groups of 20. And they would put us in a room with some heads and gloves and bits and pieces, and sort of do a workshop. Because, as I say, we couldn't demonstrate that we could do creatures. They would say, they'd give me a head, for instance, and they'd say, okay, be a sleeping creature on the ground. Now wake up, look around, and then get up and move off. And without any advice as to what kind of, how the creature was going to move, or, you know, they were just looking for creativity, improvisation. And I just felt really at home. I mean, there were quite a lot of people there quite freaked out, dancers going, wait a minute, tell me what the moves are. Or clowns going, I can't bend down, like, you know. But I was just perfectly suited. I went, you know, not I've got the job, but I felt completely relaxed about hanging out with these guys. And it went down from 200 to 50 to 20. And the last 20, they said, well, right, we're going to pick 10 of you. So it's quite competitive, kind of that American audition thing. They said, we're going to pick 10 of you, and 4 of you will be straight into pre-production while we're still doing costume design and fittings, and the other 6 will come back for the shooting. And I got into the 10, and then I got into the 4. So it was like, wow, I'm straight into the movie business from being a street urchin, you know. And then we did some training and so on, and we were still inventing some of the moves. Some of the costumes had been designed, but one of the guys was a stilt walker, for instance, a clown friend of mine, and he came in with his 6-foot stilts, and they went, oh, that's, yeah. And they built landstriders around the work that he was contributing. So we were at that point. We were there in the devising stage. Now, I then had a slight back injury, and I was pulled out for a couple of months, and Simon Williamson came in. But then they called me back when they were nice about it, and they called me back for the actual shooting. So I was shooting Dark Crystal from day one to the wrap, which was several months of work. And although we were hired to do Mystics and Gartham, because they're the big uncomfortable creatures that the Muppet people didn't want to do, right? Because they were complex puppets and new. I mean, Frank had already done Yoda for Star Wars, so this new kind of puppet where the eyes move and he could blink and move, you know, that kind of puppet takes 3 or 4 people. And so all of us background performers for Dark Crystal were also assigned to a Muppet person as their support crew. Now, somehow I got assigned to Jim Henson. So the reason I say somehow is because I don't know. I don't know if he cherry-picked the best people, or whether he was such a humble fellow. He probably let all the other guys choose people, and me and Robin Barnett were left at the end like the kids that don't get chosen for the team. You know?
Right.
I have no idea how I got the job, but I ended up. Me and Robbie Barnett ended up as Jim Henson's support crew, which means that when he's doing the head here and the left hand here of the ritual master, say, I'm in his armpit working the right hand, or behind him working the eyes. And so I'm doing Jen, I'm doing the ritual master, I'm doing the dying emperor, but I'm only contributing a little tiny bit to it. But I'm also hanging out with the guy who's invented it, designed it, directing it, and performing in it.
That's amazing.
And scary though it was, you know,
masterclass.
I felt at home. You know, and Jim was such a lovely fella. Never told me off, never said you did it wrong or something. He was always getting us to create a performance. And of course, we had less rehearsal than all the other people. All the other people, while the lighting's being done and all that sort of stuff, all the other performers were working with their crew going, when I turn the head, you move the eyes and blink, you know, and all this. Whereas I'm just standing next to it while Jim's talking to the lighting guy and the sound guy and the thing. And then he would turn to me and go, okay, this is what we're going to do. And we would just dive in. And it was quite extraordinary. Yeah, it took a
Like a
kind of
mind
telepathy.
meld.
Yeah. No, seriously. Because the thing about puppets is that you can't perform down here under the stage. You've got to put all the energy. If you're doing it like when I was doing a solo pod person, the performance has to go on up there, not down here.
Yeah.
And you're putting all of the energy up there, and you're kind of not there. It's a weird kind of a trance state.
Yeah.
So when you're working 3 or 4 of you doing a character, you have to just all be in the character. I mean, it occurred to me that one of the reasons that Jim may have picked me and Robbie was we were both a couple of what do you call it, Buddhist vegetarians, gentle souls, old hippies, whatever you want to call it, And Jim was basically quite a mild-mannered person like that. So we were temperamentally, we're very similar. And I think to some extent, Dave Goltz is a bit more American, a bit more, so he would pick a couple of people that were much more his kind of dynamic, Yeah. And ideally, teams kind of sorted themselves out into compatible groups, if you see what I mean. I mean, there was a lot of shuffling going on. I mean, if I'm doing a Gartham, then Wendy might come in and do the eyes or something. There's a lot of chopping and changing. But essentially, we settled down into crews, and it was amazing. It was just, I never knew when I went to work in the morning what I was going to do. I knew the days when I was specifically doing Gartham or Mystics, because then we would look at the script and we would block out the moves and have a little rehearsal.
Yeah.
And maybe work on second unit or whatever. But when I was working for Jim, I would just stand there and be told what to do and then try and do it. It's just weird.
Simple enough.
What did you do on Little Shop of Horrors? Because I know what I knew, dear Gerald Home.
Yes.
And he did the pods singing. What was your role in the Little Shop of Horrors?
Well, I came in a little bit late. Dave Barkley had been doing the little tiny puppet.
Yeah.
When it got to a medium-sized puppet, I'm doing one of the leaves. The leaves are kind of like hands.
Yeah.
And he's about, I don't know, his head's about 2 foot high at that point. And I can't remember, am I the left? I think I'm the left.
Yeah, the left in Jabba the Hutt. In Jabba the Hutt,
yeah, I'm trying to remember which leaf.
You must be a lefty.
Right.
I think I'm the left leaf. Then when he gets a little bit bigger, I was given the job of understudying the guys doing the lips, because the top lip, the bottom lip, the tongue, and the tonsils were 4 different people, and then somebody inside the head, Anthony Armstrong, would be inside the head, and because it was such a strenuous job, they put me on as an understudy. So actually, I didn't do very much. I had to study what the other guys were doing in case anybody got injured, which would delay shooting. So they put me I'm sitting there on the neck. Now, you can't actually perform a neck, even though there was a control there. So I basically sat and watched these guys every day and prayed that they didn't pull a muscle. And then, before that one, there was a medium-sized one where I'm just doing one of the tentacles. There's a shot where Audrey's got about 10, 15 tentacles. Each one is a puppeteer. There was a hole in the ground, and we're all down there with a gimbal and a monitor that we could see what we were doing. And it's one person per tentacle. So I can't really point to which tentacle I was. I can't remember.
Well, that's
and then when he got really
tentacle,
big, I'm a tentacle as well. I didn't do the pod. No, Gerald did the pods going beep beep. That's when I'm understudying the lips.
Do you always have a monitor? Do you ever have to kind of, be in the darkness doing your puppeteering blind?
Yes. The Muppets had learnt to use monitors very carefully because they did TV, right?
Yeah.
Because you're shooting very quickly, and because it's a TV, they could then have a TV monitor showing the live camera on their monitor. So they could see exactly what they're doing. They could see if they're in frame. If you went out of frame, you could tell. You know what I mean? If you were above the frame, whatever. Like I'm watching myself now, I can see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
that's how they did it. And even when they were filming film stock, they had a setup so that they could see through the lens what the actual shot was. So you could tell if you were in the background, if you're in the foreground, if you're a close up.
Yeah.
And yeah, as far as possible, we would have a monitor. I mean, if I was doing a pod person here, I might have a monitor on the floor. I might be a bit uncomfortable looking at it. When we were inside the Ritual Master, Jim had a monitor hanging off his chest. And because I'm sitting in his armpit here, I could see his monitor, and I could tell if my hand's in frame or out of frame. Because trying to decide, are you in frame or out? Don't sort of dangle fingers in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But the thing is,
so yes, it was important that we could see what the shot was.
Yeah.
Now I say that, but the Gartham and the Mystics, no, we didn't have cameras inside. Nowadays, of course, you could have a pinhole camera and a little tiny visor, and you could see exactly what was going on. But no, we worked blind for the Mystics and Gartham. We would rehearse with the head off, block the moves out, and then just use muscle memory like dancers.
But the thing is that with the Zoom, you're kind of mirrored.
Yes.
But were you mirrored in the monitors, or did you have to mirror in your head?
Now there's a weird thing. That's a weird thing. If I was on my own monitor, I would flip it so that it was a mirror. So that if I move that way, it moves that way, like trying to comb your hair in a mirror. Yeah. But Jim and Frank, because you couldn't flip monitors when they started, they had got used to looking at themselves as like a TV image. But that used to do my head in, because if I found my puppet was that angle, I'd try and correct it, and I'd actually go the wrong way. Because as I say, like combing your hair, and you go, oh, help. So yeah, if I'm working with Jim, I had to learn to do it his way, which was using the actual image, not a mirror.
Yeah.
But if I was on my own, I would go around the back and flip it, because it was easier.
Always wondered.
Yeah, it was a point of contention, because none of us new boys could do that. It was they'd got used to it, and all the Muppet people could do it. They'd trained themselves. They'd learnt the art of it. And now, having said all that, when we got to Jabba, of course, this was not a puppet shoot. The people shooting it had no respect for the puppeteers. They weren't going to show us through the lens, because you have to change the lighting to have two cameras, or to have a video camera next to your main camera and all that sort of stuff would be such a kerfuffle for a whole Jabba's Palace set that they didn't do that. So we went, well, we can't work completely blind. So what they did was they put a security camera, like a CCTV thing, up in the ceiling showing us Jabba, which kind of worked. But I mean, I've got a monitor on my chest. It's 4 inches, a 4-inch screen. It's blurry, black and white, grey shot of Jabba, which doesn't really help, because you don't know if they're doing a close-up. You don't know. You can't see what the shot is. You can't see if you're in a close-up. I didn't know if my hand was in frame or not. But it didn't help much. It helped because it meant Dave and I could coordinate our movements if we were doing things that we had to do together. But essentially, we were working almost blind in Jabba. And we had no playback to check what we'd done, because it was film stock, which means the rushes, the dailies come the day after, right? From the chemists. So we were working virtually blind. The only way we could coordinate that was that the builders who were working the eyes would be outside on the set. They had radio controls. They're out on the set. They could talk to the director and the lighting guy and everything, and then over the headset tell us what was not working.
Okay.
So it was quite tricky, that, because, as I say, we couldn't really see what we were doing, and it didn't matter for some things, but for things like hitting C-3PO, for instance, it's kind of important that I can see what I'm doing, because it's a stunt fight,
where he is.
Flailing.
So and I went outside. We didn't go out very much. We stayed inside Jabba most of the time. But I went outside to talk to the fight coordinator, and he said, "Can you do a blow and stop? Can you?" I said, "Well, I've done some stage fighting. I can do a convincing." yeah, I can do that. As long as I'm missing him by a bit, you know. And they went, yeah, okay. And then he said to Anthony Daniels, he said, so can you see anything? And Anthony said, I can't see anything. So I can't see anything and he can't see anything.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so I basically got to miss him by a bit, which means you put the camera, you know, that side, so you don't see the depth.
Like,
And they shot it from low down, partly to make Jabba look bigger, but also so they could take Anthony's legs off. Because in that suit, if he fell over, he could, well, not only hurt himself, but damage the suit. So he's basically only wearing C-3PO from the waist up. And they put him on a mark, right? And they put me on a mark, and then we did it in slow motion, and then we marked it and blocked it and things. And then somebody goes, right, we're going to go for it. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. And I go, bang, and he goes, and yeah, we got it. We only did about 2 takes, I think.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
But, you know, stuff like that is where muscle memory comes in handy. And that's where the previous 10 years, I've been doing juggling and acrobatics and mime and so on. So although I wasn't a dancer, I had quite a lot of coordination. Plus, I'm ambidextrous because of the juggling, because I'm doing 2 things. Of course, I'm doing the left hand. I'm also operating the head with my right hand.
Or the tongue. Yeah,
and the tongue.
Yeah.
The tongue. That's a brain tattoo on my brain. You have,
it really is.
It's a scene I can replay in my head without any visuals. I don't need them anymore. But man, the tongue. Toby.
Yes.
Toby, you should have suggested to them when you hit C-3PO, instead of doing that, you could have hit him with like a fireball or something. Breathe fire on him. That would have been better. Like Gene Simmons.
How nobody treated us with any respect on the Dark Crystal. Puppeteers were kind of important, because it's a puppet film.
Yeah.
On Jedi, we're just tiresome special effects guys.
Really,
you don't get a vote. You don't get a. I mean, they didn't think of us as puppeteers. They just go, you know, who built this? Who, get inside and work it as though it was nothing.
Like a prop.
You know, not a skill.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, Phil Tippett would do the Rancor. Yeah. So that disrespect of puppeteers, like I said to you, the mime artists in the background, the entourage of Jabba, are mostly in helmets and gloves, and you know, they're getting hot and they're being treated nicely. We got inside Jabba at 8:30 in the morning, and we didn't really come out for the rest of the day. So,
what did it smell like inside Jabba?
Oh Jesus!
Blue paint.
Did it smell like rubber? Did it smell like latex? Did it smell bad?
Latex. Yeah,
beer.
Beer. Yeah, it's quite smelly.
Beer and latex.
We're in street clothes. No, I mean, we were actually relatively comfortable. We're sitting in a little cave. The guys in the costumes are freezing when the lights are off, and then boiling when the lights are on, and you know, red in the face, and they're blowing air into the costumes and stuff. We were in street clothes. We would just arrive at 8 o'clock and then climb inside, just more or less just like this, and just. But nobody knew who we were. There was a day when I went out to get my coffee and bun at 11 o'clock, and the security guy came over to me and he said, "Excuse me, sir, it's a closed set." I went, I'm inside the main character. I'm the main character. And he went, "Sorry, I didn't recognise you." And I went, nobody knew who we were.
You can't recognize.
So nobody knew how it was done. You know, that was the whole. We even said to Richard Markman, "Please don't say who's wiggling the tail and who's. Please talk to Jabba as though he's a real being, you know, because we learned that off Jim Henson. You don't say to Jim, "Can you make Kermit pull a funny face?" You talk to Kermit, you know. You talk to Miss Piggy. You don't talk to Frank down there. So we said, please just direct Jabba like an actor. Just pretend you've got Marlon Brando on the set or something, and you know, okay, I want you to look angry and I want you to look that way. And
I never knew that. Wow, that's crazy.
Well, it was a trick, you know, that we learned.
That's great.
And
it's a great.
Afterwards, we would then coordinate to practice a bit while they were doing the lighting.
Yeah.
We would practice with feedback from the guys outside because, of course, we couldn't see really what we're doing. He'd say, "Give me a big laugh," you know, and then look angry and then hit the CPU or whatever. And we would go, "Ho, ho, ho," and they'd go, "That's hardly showing," through the shell and the airbags and the So,
Yeah.
Dave and I are bringing ourselves around inside there. You know, if anyone filmed it, it would have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
But so the day that we knew we'd cracked it was the day Richard Markham was talking to us, and he said, "Okay, Jabba, I want you to look that way," and we couldn't see him. So we said, "Sorry, I'm sorry, we can't see through these eyes." And he goes, "Oh." So, can you look to your left? So, you know, at that point, we realized he was talking to us and thinking that he was seeing the eyes, and of course, we would actually, Dave doing the voice, would actually answer as Jabba. He wouldn't say, "Sorry, Mr. Markman, we can't see what we're doing." "I'm sorry, Mr. Markman," you know, staying in character, because that's how we practiced. So it was an amusing job. It's only 5 weeks or so, you know, 5 or 6 weeks. But we didn't. When I got offered the job, I didn't realize. I knew I was doing big creatures, but I'd just done Dark Crystal. I assumed it was going to be like a Gotham or a background character, or at the very least, you know, a couple of lines, you know, a major domo, or you know, some sergeant at arms answering the door or something. I had no idea because it's very secretive. I had no idea really until we got on the set that it was Jabba's palace, and that he was going to meet all the principal players. That one by one they're going to walk through the door. You know, you've got Mark Hamill with Chewbacca, and then we've already got Harrison Ford on the wall. You know, then Carrie Fisher's going to turn up as the bounty hunter. So, you know, we actually end up doing scenes with all the main players. And I had no idea. I really didn't know. If you think about it, Jabba's on the screen for, I don't know, I never timed it, 20 minutes or something, the opening sequence. If I was an actor and you knew my face, I'd be a star. But actually, what it is Jabba's a star, and me and Dave are like invisible.
Those damn masks.
Right. Well, Toby, I gotta ask, because we talked about this before, but it must have helped working with Dave, because I know you developed a good friendship. So you must have had that camaraderie and kind of maybe trust, or maybe this is where you built it up. Did you work with him on Dark Crystal before Jabba, or?
He wasn't performing on Dark Crystal. He was building. He was building puppets and things. And I knew him. I knew him because his parents were a puppet troupe, and he knew my dad probably better than I did, because to me he was a Saturday dad to me, a weekend dad, because of the separation. But Dave Barkley was kind of not an apprentice to him, but you know, he knew, because he was well in the puppet
Monday
world.
to Friday,
and Dave is a, you know, he wanted to be a puppeteer, whereas I grew up not wanting to be a puppeteer. Dave wanted to be, he was a puppeteer from the age of, I don't know, 10. He was already building puppets, and you know, he made Planet of the Apes masks, and I think it's his story, not mine, but I seem to remember that the way he got a foot in the door was that he was working at a toy store, and Mark Hamill came in, I think, or somebody who wanted a puppet of Darth Vader made, a marionette. And I think Dave made a puppet, which then got shown to Jim Henson, who hired him as a puppet builder. I mean, it was one of those things of Jim was a talent spotter, and he was very, very good at finding creative people. So you've got to remember that Dave's still in the business now. You know, he builds puppets, he operates puppets. He's a serious puppeteer. I mean, that's what he does.
Right.
Whereas mine was half a dozen films in the 80s, and that's my only link to puppeteering, really. But so I knew him, and he, as I say, he knew my dad. So we were hanging out a bit on Dark Crystal, but he was more in the workshop building things, and I was out on the set performing. But he was offered the job of helping build Jabba, and he couldn't do it because he was working for Jim. So Stuart Freeborn said to him, "Well, can you free yourself up from your contract with Jim?" And Dave asked, and Jim said, "Well, if you finish what you promised me, I can let you go in like November, December, or something." So it turned out that Stuart said, "Well, if you can't help us build him, do you want to be the chief puppeteer?" And Dave chose to perform Jabba, and chose me and Mike Edmonds, and the rest is history.
That's incredible.
Wow.
So basically, I got the job from Dave's recommendation. He wanted somebody that he knew and that, you know, we're like-minded. You know, it helps.
You want me to go get Dave? He's just
right. I think it would be really cool, which we talked about before, is having you and Dave on the show.
Well, it'd be great. You know, as I say, it's fun when we go to conventions and we're both sitting next to each other because it's like a double act.
He only uses his arm, and he only
right. So he signs on right, and you handshake on left. That's great.
We pose with somebody in the middle. You know, one of us this side, one of us that side. But also it triggers memories because you know, it's 40 years ago, and it's very easy. A bit like when you go on chat shows, it's very easy to end up with little kind of anecdotes that are kind of little polished pebbles, but they're not fresh memories anymore. And when I'm hanging out with Dave, he'll occasionally say something, and I go, "I forgot that."
Oh yeah.
You actually get a fresh memory, like a, you know, boom. Yeah. And that's fun, because otherwise you're just sort of saying the same old, you know, rolling out the same old stories.
Right. Yeah. Now, what did you think of Leia choking you out? Just little 100-pound Leia, 125-pound Leia killing Jabba.
She was really keen to do it herself. They were offering the stunt woman to do it, and she went, "No, I want to kill him." She'd been so
I want to kill him.
So miserable. Yeah, no, she
sounds like Harry.
She volunteered. She went, "I'm looking forward to that. I'd never have to work with him again." I mean, apart from anything else, you know, it's really helpful. You imagine it being an actor now with green or blue screen. It's hard work, and the fun we had with her was that we're actually acting with her. Like I said, we can talk to her. So we'd say, "Good morning, Miss Fisher," when she came on the set. You know, she's actually playing with Jabba and talking to us. Probably hardly knew who we were. Occasionally we'd have to go outside and talk to her. But when we did, she'd be in a big toweling robe going, "Oh, it's freezing." I mean, you've got to imagine a film studio is like an aircraft hangar.
Yeah.
And that was the coldest winter for 40 years. So January, February, right? It was freezing. It was absolutely freezing.
Not in Jabba.
No, we were comfortable. Because people often say, "Was it too hot in there?" We went, "No, it was just all right." Because, you know, it was kind of body heat. And we were comfortable. But no, she was freezing until they put the big lights on, of course, and then she's boiling. So, yeah, she'd be in a toweling robe. And then, I mean, I never saw her in the bikini because whenever I went out, the lights were off. So I chat to her, and we chat to her about the chain and, you know, is it okay with this? And we can't see that and all that. Yeah. Then we go back in and we get back into Jabba mode. And then they turn the lights on. Then she'd take off her toweling robe. There's 150 guys out there. Because people always say, you know, "What did you see her in the bikini?" I went, "Nope, never did." So I was only about 3 feet away from her, but you know, that's it.
Because she does fall against. She does fall against Jabba. She does make contact with Jabba.
She does, yes. But you've got to bear in mind that there's a fiberglass shell, then there's an airbag,
okay,
then there's a latex skin.
Okay.
So that's not falling against my knees or nothing.
Okay. I wondered.
No. No, so, you know, as I say, she was a very good sport about it and fun to play with. But you know, it's not like we went to the bar together or anything like that. We weren't that kind of close.
Yeah. Crazy. Do you have any other funny stories from anything that happened while you were filming a Jabba scene and something went terribly wrong?
Well, not terribly wrong. No, I mean, you know, filming is one of those things. You get multiple takes, and it quite often isn't your fault. You know, they just go, "We're going again," and we would go, "Is that us?" Or they go, No, the lighting was wrong or something. You do it again.
Okay.
So you get used to the fact that you just got to keep churning it out. And I mean, the final choice will be them. After they've seen the dailies, they'll pick what they want.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of stuff that will go on the cutting room floor. I mean, for instance, we had a hooker pipe.
Yeah.
And we had Richard Padbury underneath with a cigar and a rubber tube. blowing smoke. So I know we did some smoking scenes, but there aren't any smoking scenes in the film, as far as I can see.
Yeah.
I'd have to look again. I have a feeling that when you first see him, he's holding a hookah, but he isn't blowing smoke or anything. He's I mean, I know I held the hook, you know. I know we went through some smoking bits, but I guess the only thing we had to do, well, there were a couple of things where we had to do them again. One was with the frog, because although that's a live frog in the hookah, it came from the zoo. It's a big natural frog.
Wow, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's swimming around. That's a huge kind of African frog of some sort. The frog that I pick up was a rubber frog, and he isn't a Clatuine, whatever it is, frog. The close-up you get of the paddy frog is just that was shot separately. Someone else did that as a close-up. That's not my arm.
That's second.
It's a standard.
Yeah, it's just second unit stuff that they just put it in. But so what I do is I reach down. I couldn't see what I'm doing, so I'm handed a rubber frog, right? And I turn the head and I look down and I reach down and I'm bringing the frog up while I'm leveling the head up. And Dave is opening the mouth and I shove the frog in. And then Dave's just chewing. And while he's chewing, I let go the head and put my hand inside the tongue and then lick the lips. So that's the shot, right? And we did it, I think we did it 3 or 4 times. Yeah. The first time, I put the frog in and I was so busy thinking about the tongue that I just chucked the frog in. Now, the mouth had a back, so it's not falling in amongst our feet or anything. It's just going in the mouth.
Yeah.
And Dave was doing the chewing and I licked the lips and they went, no, cut, no, do it again. And I said, what was wrong? And they went, the frog's leg was sticking out. And when he was chewing, the leg was wiggling about.
That's funny, though. That's great.
And we went, well, that's great. And they went, what's wrong? And they went, no, it's too disgusting. I went, how can Jabba be too disgusting? That would have been great. Yeah. They went, no, make sure the frog goes right in. We want the frog to go right in.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I reached down for the frog. Now, the mouth is full of slimy gunk that the builders used to paint inside the mouth between takes. It's genuinely horrible, slippery stuff. And now the frog is covered in that. So when I reach down and he hands me a frog, it's like holding soap in the bath. I've got a 3-finger hand like this, and I'm holding the frog. So I grip onto it really hard. Don't drop the frog, And I'm bringing it up to the mouth, and Dave's opening the mouth, and I shove it in, and I kind of tuck, make sure the legs are tucked down while he's chewing, and then I lick the lips. If you watch it now, you'll see the hand hesitate. It puts the frog in, then it goes, is that, just checking that the leg's gone, because I couldn't really see the same thing, because we're only watching this kind of aerial view of Jabba. I had no close-up view of whether the leg had gone.
Yeah.
So you'll see a tentative hand move next time you notice it.
Okay, you'll watch.
So Toby, I have a kind of a little bit of a controversial question because Mark's here. What do you think of the special edition Jabba?
Sorry, Mark. I don't like it either. And I wish they'd resurrected the puppet. So
I try and be polite about it because it's easy to get quoted by fans these days. The truth is, I don't like the CGI, but that's partly when they put him in The New Hope. It was just a really bad bit of CGI. It was a really bad sculpt, and all the silliness of stepping on his tail and all that. I went, that's where it doesn't match our Jabba. Our Jabba looks like he weighs half a ton because he does.
Right.
He looks smelly and disgusting because he was.
Right.
And he's 3-dimensional, which means he's actually acting with the actors. If they change the rhythm of their lines, we change our rhythm. He's actually acting and interacting.
Yeah.
So that's hard to simulate. And the very first New Hope, I just didn't look right. In Phantom Menace, the sculpt was a bit better. It still didn't look as good as the practical Jabba, but it looked a bit more like Jabba anyway. Yeah. Maybe younger or whatever.
Yeah, Jabba on keto.
Yeah, but he just didn't look like he had any weight. He didn't look frightening.
I wish they resurrected the puppet for the special editions, because when I saw exactly what you're saying, the facial features were not right, the size and the shape of the eyes and the mouth, and so I was thinking, okay, we've tried it, now let's skip it and resurrect the puppet, which probably would have been the same expense, I would have thought.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, they did throw away the original Jabba. They threw him in the
have to redo it, but they could probably do it maybe with lighter materials now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, on Dark Crystal, the puppets, I said to you, it's a team of 4 people. Nowadays, one person can do the face. They've got a computer thing with little, controls. The controls we had were like those things, like bicycle brakes or like camera triggers, to make a blink.
Like the wire that just kind of pulls.
Pulling the wire.
But things evolved, so it would have been easy to do Jabba up, but it's a choice. George didn't really like the practical Jabba. He didn't like the fact he couldn't walk about. Apparently, this is all rumours. I'm not saying that I've had a chat with George about it, but the rumours were that he wasn't entirely satisfied with it. I quite like the fact that Jabba's a blob and probably has to be carried from place to place. That's the whole. That goes with the character, I don't want him to slither about particularly.
Right.
But there were. I'll give you my real bugbear about, as I say, Phantom Menace or any later, because they can still change CGI, they can still update it and improve it.
Sure.
Yeah.
It worries me that they might paint over our practical Jabba to make it all match.
No, they can't. If they do that, we'll veto it.
We've got our copies.
I will tell you one thing that bugs me, and I'm sorry if I point it out to you, it's going to bug you from now on. Part of Jabba being a true alien was that he's not humanoid. He doesn't look like a human alien with funny heads like most aliens in movies and Doctor Who and everything else. No, he's genuinely alien, and his hand is like this. I carefully don't do that because people then think it's Star Trek or something, but that's actually how his hand is. It's a 3-finger hand. When they put him in Phantom Menace, they gave him a Disney hand, which is 3 fingers and a thumb. So you can
they're already changing canon.
Oh boy.
Yeah, because that's the Disney hand. Disney, they all Mickey Mouse and Goofy and all those things. They don't have that. It's a bunch of bananas. What they have is 3 fingers and a thumb, but they do have the opposable thumb. Now, to me, that's completely wrong because that slightly humanizes him.
Mm-hmm.
You can still point with that.
We have to. If we were pointing, you'd point. But rather than the sculpt of the face or anything else on the CGI, that's what annoys me. And now I've spoiled it for you.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned about Jabba being carried around, because in the Book of Boba Fett, I think it's his cousins. Someone, Warren, Mark, I'm not sure. Sorry, I think it's his cousins are in it, and they're CG. They do look much better. I believe, Toby, I might have sent you a picture of them. And
I mean they're getting better.
They're getting better, but they're still not even close to the original Jabba. They're better, but they're not even close to the original Jabba. So
and they don't. Well, I mean, it's this thing. They don't really act with the other actors. They're painted separately. Because the actors are talking to a green screen, aren't they? There's nobody there for the actors, and there's just something intuitive about practical creatures that that's hard to simulate. I mean, even when I say CGI stuntmen, for instance, in movies, you'd think, if nothing else, that a computer could do gravity, 32 feet per second. It's an exact mathematical formula to do gravity. So you'd think a stuntman falling off a horse or out of a building or something, you could get that exactly right. And yet, the gravity on some of the stunt CGIs that I've seen, just you don't believe it for some reason. Not just because it's an improbable fall or something, but it's just really hard to fool the human brain. Of course, if it's a split second, if the plot is exciting enough, then you forgive it. But if there's one little bit of you that doesn't really believe it, it takes you out of the reality.
Yeah.
Or for me, And suddenly it's a cartoon, and I don't believe it, and it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, when they did Jurassic Park, I bought it all. I literally, because I used to watch movies like this, watching special effects. Oh yeah, good. Yeah, Gremlins. Okay, E.T. Yeah, okay. Because I'd been doing it, I couldn't help but see that's a wet Wednesday. Oh, that was a good enough shot.
That's the quality of the animation. That's the quality of the animator, though. If it's a good animator, they're going to animate it the right
plot
to look
for
like
Jurassic Park.
physics. Yeah.
When the Velociraptors come over the hill, I didn't go, how are they doing that? I didn't go, that's a cartoon. I didn't.
Right.
The actors were good enough, and the effects were good enough, and it was startling enough that you just buy it.
Right.
Yeah.
And every now and then they would put a practical effect in there. I think there's a shot. I think when are they stuck in a taxi or something, and there's a head that looms to the window, and that's actually a practical effect. So it's rather like that, because I was a magician as a kid, and magic was one of my favorite things. So to me, it's that magic trick. If you can fool the audience, if you can mix it up enough that they can't quite sort of see how it's done, and you can fool them, and they just buy it. I mean, that's suspension of disbelief. But the minute, if I see 5,000 droids marching across a desert, I go, they didn't stage that, so that's just a computer game. Suddenly, I just I just don't buy it. And that I do come from the generation. I mean, when I was growing up, it was Ray Harryhausen's stop motion things and King Kong and all that. And we bought it. Now it looks very primitive, but so things move on.
Right.
What I like about nowadays is like on Obi-Wan Kenobi, they have practical effects, but they also have like the masks have 32 servos in them. And so
of course.
Puppeteers.
Yeah.
With the guy wearing the thing going, oh, blah 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 blah, and then it's amazing, and I it's just so much better than CGI.
Yeah. Well, there's, as I say, there's something about practical effects that still work better. But I'm not against people experimenting. I mean, I worked on Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and there were no puppets in that at all. I mean, that's
all kind of
that's all animation. Wow. I mean, literally, that's Bob Hoskins imagining all the creatures around him.
Wow.
And our job, again, it was Dave Barclay got me on, supplementing the special effects team who had devised ways of doing some of the things that were needed in the script. But what they didn't know was little things that would occur to the director on the day needed improvised solutions. So we were a team of 6 puppeteers, and our job was to devise quick and dirty solutions for ideas the director had on the spot. So again, we were just improvising. Take a simple thing like I think Jessica Rabbit strokes Bob Hoskins' tie. Being seductive like this. And that's just me and Dave Barclay with a black thread under the tie, just lifting the tie like this, like magician's assistants. So it was like shooting the Invisible Man, but we had to animate anything that was real. Like if there's a weasel carrying a machine gun, then Dave would be up in the ceiling with a couple of invisible threads moving the gun along. So I mean, you can see that was all hand painted animation in the traditional Disney manner. No computer graphics, no quickies. It was frame by frame, hand painted. I mean, they'll never do it again. I mean, it's just so expensive. And then ILM tweaks it. So on top of the painted animations in the classic mode, they added shadows and various things. They did a lot of modern stuff as well. So, but again, it's flawless. When you watch it, your brain doesn't go, how did they do that? Or, they could have painted in the guns and things, but they wanted the practical effects to be there, supplementing the acting and the animation. It was just, it's a one-off movie. I was lucky. I only worked on half of the films, but they're all experiments. They're all doing things that hadn't been done before. And you know, that's why I'm proud of them, really, I guess, because I was just lucky enough to be there.
Right.
When there was no particular skill needed for it. I mean, I think they.
You're a
Sorry.
trailblazer.
Yeah, and that means no one can correct you because everyone's in at the deep end, you know. So if you can find a way of doing it and solving the problem.
Uh-oh.
Yep, we lose Toby.
We've lost Toby.
I was like,
the UK has taken him back.
What?
You had to call him a trailblazer. Now look what you did.
That's easy for you to say.
Warren.
Right? Warren, you're Mike
every time you call someone that, they disappear.
Yep. Warren's cursed.
Why is that?
Dom, you're a trailblazer.
Why is that?
Okay, Mark, let's just talk. Anyway. So,
okay. I lost everybody.
There you Toby, hey, we blame Warren. Warren was trying to do some CGI, put a CGI Jabba in or something, you know. And I saw Mark put the Boba Fett helmet on. We were recreating episode 1 special edition. No, episode 4 special edition. Yeah. Sorry. But yeah. So Toby, I'm not sure where you got cut off, where you were left off. Warren, you want to remind him?
He was like this.
Did we lose him again?
Oh no!
We lost him. See, Warren, look at we called Warren one. Damn.
He's back again. He's back in.
All right.
It's the UK. Back again. The UK won him back.
Yeah, I don't know what. It wasn't me, was it? I didn't do anything.
No, it was Warren.
It was like that when we got here.
All right. Yeah, so you know, what can I say? I was just lucky to be doing films when they needed what's the word? An all-rounder, a generalist.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave picked me for Roger Rabbit because he wanted a versatile crew, so he picked one guy that was a ventriloquist maker, one guy who did glove puppets, one guy who did marionettes, string puppets, and so on. And when he picked me, and I said, "What do you want me for?" He said, "Because you do magic and juggling, and you know, there were just lots of little things we needed doing where my magician's brain for making things float and so on came in handy." Yeah. And there was just silly things. I think in the Acme factory at the end, one of the weasels climbs up a ladder to look in the dip, and the ladder flies back, hits a rope, the knot comes undone, a 10-ton weight lands on his head, and all this sort of stuff. Well, I'm there on the night shoot for this, and they went, "Does anyone know how to make a knot that comes undone when the rope's hit?" And they all went, "Him. He does magic." And they all look at me. I've got this whole crew, all carpenters, electricians, cameramen, and all that, and a 1-inch rope, you know, a big fat rope. Now I do know various magic knots and so on like that, but I went, okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to turn it backwards because the knot that I know that comes undone was when I learned it was like a cowboy knot. You tie your horse up with this, you know, and go in the saloon, and when you came out, you pulled on the thing, and the knot came off. But if the horse pulled on it, it stayed tight. That was what the knot was.
Right.
But I had to do it upside down. I had to think about, and I'm doing it with a 1-inch rope. So I'm doing this, and I go, well, hopefully that'll work. The ladder's going to hit the rope, and it's so the first time they go, ready, and action, and you've got 50 people there waiting for it to work, right? And the ladder came down, went boing on the rope, and it didn't come undone. They cut. So then they look at me again, and I go, okay, I'll loosen it off a bit. Here we go, blushing and getting red, you know. Oh God, here we go. So then the second time they go, ready, and action, and the ladder goes down, and he went boing, and I thought, oh no, and then it went boing and went through. So it bounced off the rope, but the knot came undone, and it falls through. So I went, oh, that's quite good actually. So they all go, okay, and they went off for a huddle. They went boing, crack. You couldn't do that. You couldn't plan that. But they went, we don't want 2 beats. We don't want pointing thing. We want boom. Okay, do it a third time, loosen it off even more. So the one you see in the movie is my third take. But yeah, there
That's
I was trying to do a magic knot at 4 a.m.
Wow.
I mean, we were shooting 2 units. We were shooting daytime and nighttime, right? And I'm on the night shoot. So, So, as I say, it wasn't really puppeteering. This is why I'm saying we were a funny little crew. We had to really improvise all kinds of solutions to things. But it was great fun to know what you're contributing to. And now, it's one of those movies I watch now. I still enjoy watching it. I can even watch it and enjoy it now, rather than go, that was the day when that was the day.
That was that goddamn knot. Shit.
That was that goddamn knot.
Well, Toby, we don't want to keep up any more time of yours coming on late for us. We've went over an hour. So, Toby, I'm going to put your website up right now, just so if anyone wants an autographed picture of Jabba himself, we got what? Do you only have Jabba photos on your website? I'm trying to think.
Yes, I do. That link will take you to the website, and then from there are links to a page where you can use PayPal to buy some Jabba pictures or some Dark Crystal pictures or whatever through the mail. If we don't meet through a convention, I give you that address because that's the simple one. But if you search for me in Google, I'm in Wikipedia, I'm in IMDb and all that sort of stuff. I'm not hard to find.
Right. Well, I plan on having you out at some more events in America, especially mine. So I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully all the listeners will be there. And we really appreciate you coming on. I know this was a little bit last minute. You're our first guest. Our first ever guest.
I didn't know.
You popped our cherry, Toby. You popped our cherry. So no better than Jabba. Jabba's tongue, actually.
No.
Ooh. So, all right, guys. Well,
thanks, Toby. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
No, thank
you, guys.
Pleasure to meet you.
And have a good night.
Thank you.
Will do.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
See you.
Dom.
Tune in to We Speak Bocce for fun deep dive conversations and debates that lead to some never before heard stories with guests from all across the galaxy, including actors from your favorite Star Wars movies and TV shows, as well as behind the scenes talent, artists, and authors from the Star Wars universe. We will also have other interviews with special pop culture guests from around the galaxy to discuss the impact of Star Wars on pop culture as a whole. Stay tuned for fun interviews with Academy Award winner Roger Christian, ILM legend and fellow Wampa Howie Weed, reality TV star from Love on the Spectrum James B. Jones, and so much more. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Facebook, and Instagram at We Speak Bocce. Make sure you stay updated for latest interviews and episodes. May the Force be with you, always.